This episode of The Dog Show features Sheryl Matthys. Sheryl is the founder of FetchaDate, a dog lovers matchmaking app that has been featured on the New York Times, Animal Planet, and E! Entertainment. Sheryl is also a best-selling author, TV and radio personality, website entrepreneur, producer of a TV pilot and documentary, and professor at the University of Notre Dame. In the interview, we discuss tips for dating with a dog, such as whether or not a dog can help your dating life, and if you should take your dog on a first date. Sheryl, welcome to The Dog Show today. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
I am really excited to have a chat with you today. I didn't even realize that someone with so much love and so much history with dogs and, working with dogs and working with dog lovers even existed in the world. So I'm really excited to chat to you today.
Oh, yeah, we exist. We're here.
Before we get into kind of your background and everything, because there's lots of interesting stuff to talk about there, can you tell me a bit more about your dogs? You've got a couple of dogs of your own?
I do have a couple of dogs, and I've had many dogs now. My first loves were greyhounds. I've had 3 of those. Unfortunately, they've all passed away. So now we have a mutt. Got him from the shelter. He's part terrier and schnauzer. He's a character. If you could picture the dogs that sit there with the cigar in their mouth, playing poker, that's Edgar. And they even, in the shelter, they named him Edgar. And we were like, that's just perfect. He's going to stay Edgar. And then we got our COVID puppy. So she's a dachshund. And my daughter had been wanting a dachshund for a long time. So she actually she got that, but it was not easy getting a dog during COVID. The shelters were emptying out, which is fantastic. I love seeing that. But then also to get one in other ways was just, everybody was hoarding pets in a sense. But I think it was such an unusual time and a wonderful time.
Yeah, I mean, puppy adoption and just interest in, companion animals has just skyrocketed, hasn't it, in the last couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. And hey, it keeps us in business more. We get more listeners and, and more people taking part.
That's true.
And I always think the world would be such a wonderful place if everybody had a pet.
Yeah. It's interesting that you've got such a different style of dogs there. Schnauzers, as you mentioned, Edgar is like the perfect name. And then you've got Dachshunds and then Greyhounds. Like, I've never had either of those dogs myself, but what I've heard from people that do have them, they're all different personalities. They're all different kind of, exercise levels and all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. They really were at all ends of the spectrum. And I always tell people if they haven't had a dog ever before and they're thinking about getting a dog, I highly recommend the Greyhound.
Okay.
They're the greatest starter pet because they're actually quite lazy. And so they're happy to just lounge on your couch all day long, maybe for a couple of minutes, let them run somewhere. But other than that, they are really low maintenance, and they're kind of like having a dog or like a cat and a dog because they're just, they want to curl up in their bed. They just want to be by you, see you. They're very loyal. They don't jump up on people. They're just sweet natured. They seem like they get along with every other pet. Although with some cats, they may not. They might, if their prey drive, they may want to chase them. But definitely with other dogs, they seem like they're always the easygoing one.
Yeah, so, people obviously think about greyhounds, because they're used for racing, that they probably would need a lot of exercise, but it sounds like they don't.
No, they don't. It's very little because it's so fast in a spurt. And they will run for all of a minute and then they're done. They're like, okay, good for the rest of the day. Where's the popcorn? And let me see the couch.
I've always thought they're such a stunning dog as well. Like you can really just see the definition of all their muscles and very unique looking dog as well.
They're gorgeous. I know. And I think that's why I was just drawn to them. I just feel like I'm staring at a supermodel all the time and and they're so graceful and sleek. But I guess the eye is on the beauty of the beholder, right? Like what I find amazing and gorgeous, somebody else might be like, I'd get some people go, can you feed that dog? Or they're awfully skinny. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do you not see the muscles on her? I mean, and they were, they had been athletes and stuff, but it's funny how we all perceive them a little different.
So the reason I asked you to come on today is because I discovered this really cool app called FetchaDate, and that's your baby. But how did you end up starting a dating app for dog lovers or pet lovers?
Yeah. So Fetch a Date came about because of my Greyhound. And that was what even led me to begin to have pet events, dog parties in Manhattan, of all places, New York City. And it was because I had already lived there for a number of years and then got the first Greyhound and realized how much I needed to walk a dog outside on the streets. And all of a sudden, New Yorkers became really friendly. They actually stopped and wanted to have a conversation. They would be petting. Her name was Shiraz. They'd be petting her. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the key to life, basically. This is the key to making friends. This is the key to if someone needs a date or looking to find love, that they do all the work for you. They help make the introduction. They are the conversation starter. So I started throwing these events in New York City and cocktail lounges and martini lounges, and people would come dressed up and they would bring their pets. And one thing I found fascinating and where I knew that this was key to what then became Fetch a Date was people were not asking each other, oh, what do you do for a living? Right? Which can be really cliche. And instead, they were first talking about each other's pets. Not even everybody who came had a pet, or they may have had one at home, or they were in between pets. Some people would even wear pictures of their pets or bring one. And they were talking more about things that were real, conversations that were authentic, and about things that they did where they would have fun and how they would enjoy their time outside of where whatever their work was. They'd be sitting on the ground. People were mingling, making their way about. So there were no clicks. There were no awkward moments of, I'd really like to go talk to that guy or gal over there, but I don't know how I'd approach them. Instead, it was like they were coming over if you had a pet, or you could easily walk up to them. So it just seemed like it really opened up things to everyone.
It makes a lot of sense. It is the ultimate icebreaker. Sydney is probably similar to New York in many ways. Like if you're just walking down the street by yourself or with your partner or whatever, most people will
Yeah.
ignore you or do everything they can to look the other way. But as soon as you have a dog or another animal, it's like they're just like you're magnetic. They want to come over and speak to you about your dog.
Yeah, and or if you tried to say hi, I think people would be like, "What do you want?" Like they're thinking you're going to ask them for money, right?
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing? Yeah. So they really are. They just are the truest form of an icebreaker.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess a lot of what were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh, so along with that, people have noticed now with dating apps are definitely increasing in terms of people flocking to dating apps, and many of them will reveal, especially, I mean, that's definitely the case at Fetch a Date. You're going to show your pet in your dating profile, but they're even suggesting on other dating apps to include a pet if you have one in your profile because people are much more likely to swipe right.
Okay.
And I think, and also people are perceived as friendlier, sexier, just even cuter. And it's funny how just holding that pet by you all of a sudden like boost your attractability factor.
Yeah, I guess if you weren't a pet person, maybe it would turn you off. But if you are a pet person, it would increase that attractiveness straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess some people might think that if they do have a dog, maybe it could prevent them from going on dates. But you think otherwise?
Yeah, I know otherwise, even because I've met hundreds of people, if not in the thousands already, who feel otherwise. And actually, even 55% of Americans, anyway, 55% who are single have a pet. So that field is definitely in the majority of already being pet people and understanding of one another. So definitely, like you said, yeah, if you're really not into pets, okay, then hey, that actually rules out then those that why even bother to start a chat. So you definitely have more success as soon as they see that you do have a pet, and for those who are pet lovers. Actually, a survey, it said of 2,000 people using a dating app, when they were pictured with a dog in it, that they the results show that they had 63% better success in actually matching.
All right. That's quite compelling numbers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
the odds are definitely in your favor.
even if you don't have a dog, maybe get a photo with a dog or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Well, so one different thing about Fetch a Date too is if you're in between dogs
Mm.
or any kind of pet, or you haven't even got one yet, but you know you want to when you meet that special someone, we also offer virtual pets. So you don't have to, I call it no pet, no problem. You don't have to have one to be in there. And the virtual pets can still represent anything that kind of shows off your personality. So, for instance, there's a horse in there, or a pig, or a turtle, or a parrot, or even a snake or a fish. So, you don't have to have one of those, but I think it also reveals something about your personality. So, for instance, if I weren't showing a picture of my dog, or actually I have a virtual pet and a real pet, my real pet in there, but I would have a horse because I feel like I've always loved horses, and again, their sleekness and they're fast, and I always think of racing, but so it kind of I think still says something about a lifestyle that you either desire or that you do have.
So it's probably a good time to ask you actually, how does FetchaDate work? I'm kind of visualizing, is it the animal that is the swipe left or right option first, and then you get to see the person? Is that what happens?
That is what happens. So that's also something that's different than the norm,
Mm.
because I truly do think that pet is the icebreaker. And who's going to swipe left usually on an adorable dog, right? Or cat. So I think even as I was mentioning earlier about when they found on other dating apps that people were getting more swipes to the right. In this case, every picture at first is either a real or a virtual pet. So yeah, so once you swipe right, then you find out right away if you're both a match, if the other person has swiped right on you, if maybe you were swiping right first, so they don't know that yet. Um, then you can also see later who liked you or you liked. But also, if you don't want to swipe right away, if you're kind of like, oh, I want to see who's behind that pet first before I just go making a decision, you can also just tap on a blurred out picture of the person, and then you see the person right away and can make your decision. Or you can also kind of swipe up and you'll get clues that the pet has left about you. So that's
Okay.
kind of fun way too. Like, oh, they like to go hiking, or it says my owner loves to go scuba diving and paddleboarding, and so then you think, oh, okay, I'm good with that.
It's an interesting experiment, actually, because I think someone's pet could tell you a lot about their personality anyway. How the photo's taken, what the breed of dog or type of pet is, how well they're maintained, what they're wearing. I don't know. Like, there's a lot there to kind of look at.
Yeah, completely. Because I always call it pet people, and especially in the dog world, that when we know you're talking with another dog lover, that it's sort of like a secret society. We all kind
Yeah.
of get what we deal with, but you have to usually get home after 5 hours or so, let the pet out, um, have hair on your clothes, that type of thing. But also, within that society, then we do even kind of go on a deeper level, right? So even we might be biased of, oh, they have a small dog versus I only love big dogs. So that can definitely, yeah, go one way or the other then too.
I'm already visualizing myself using not that I want to use the app because I'm happily married, but I'm visualizing the experience because I'm already thinking about the biases that I have. I'm like, yeah, cat person, no, left, dog person, right. But then I'd also be, as you said, then thinking about the breed of dog and like making assumptions about the personality of the person that got that dog. So yeah, it's interesting.
Right. And I think we all want to have fun with it and take a deeper look and are willing to. And that's where I think the pets do help us too, to
Mm,
not be maybe as closed off,
mm.
but to go ahead and find out more about them and see pictures and what they like to do with their pets.
So that's the icebreaker. I guess the app is the equivalent of, meeting someone out and having your dog with you, and then, that creates the initial conversation. What happens next? Are you taking the pet on the first date as well?
They certainly may. They would see each other and be able to chat. And so far, everything I've explained is free and Fetch a Date. So they can go ahead and start having a virtual chat, which is definitely the way I recommend people do in the beginning, and to not still meet in person quite yet. So just messaging, but then also, if they do want to see each other, I highly recommend something like a Skype or a Zoom, whatever kind of virtual format you may be comfortable with, to also have at least to meet the first 5 to 10 people that way, again, before you go out in person. Because these days too, I think, and one thing that has definitely happened in the last year and a half, and with things changing, is people are taking things slower, which I think is great. And also being pickier, almost like, is this worthy yet, to actually meet in person? But I think it's wonderful. And a lot of the data is showing in the last year that people really are being more intentional with who they see and who they date. And that's where I think the online dating apps really do help out, because it is all virtual in the beginning, and then even the way you first communicate with one another. But then certainly when you do get to go have that excursion or decide to meet in person, I think out in public somewhere is definitely better in the beginning for at least the first few dates. But there's so many fun things to do, and depending on the weather, right? But and the climate you're in, but whether it's heading to the beach, or maybe it's even a day camping trip could be fun, right? And sitting by a fire, or taking a hike on the beach, or as we were talking about earlier, paddle boarding, right? Or kayaking. I mean, there's lots of fun things to still do with pets. That doesn't mean only going to a dog park.
Yeah, but I imagine as well, like if you do live close by with someone, like just a walk with if you
Yeah.
know you've both got dogs, it's a really low risk kind of way to first meet someone in person, isn't it?
Oh, completely. And you're right. And we don't have to overthink the first time you get together with somebody.
Yeah,
And also, again, being able to have a pet along on that kind of, again, helps ease any of that awkwardness of what are we going to talk about? And it just seems
yeah,
like all of a sudden when you're with the pet, it's just you have a bunch of things to talk about, right? And they're usually funny. So that in those first few dates, you're going to have a lot more laughter than you normally would. And I was amazed when I saw this study that kids will laugh 300 times a day, but as adults, we may only laugh 10 times in a whole day. But I think if you have your pet with you, I mean, I think of all the times throughout the day, I'm constantly laughing at what they do. Like you just look at them in the face and you want to
so
laugh,
true.
right? Or they raise their paw and it makes you chuckle, or they run after their ball. And I don't know. I just feel like I'm always laughing, just having pets around.
And laughter's. I mean, they say laughter's the best medicine. It really is. I mean, if you go a whole
Hmm.
day or a whole couple of days without laughing, and then you all of a sudden laugh, you're like, whoa, I forgot how good this is.
I don't think you could have a pet and not laugh in a
No,
day.
that's true. I've got a French
Yeah,
bulldog in particular, and they do all sorts of weird stuff all the time. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, like that first date, like compared to going on a pet date, compared to just sitting in a restaurant together or something and just sitting face to face. There's so much more pressure on that scenario, isn't there, compared to getting out and doing something active together and taking your pets with you.
Oh yeah, it's just so much easier. Yeah, there's so many things to do, and more conversation to have.
Yeah. So with yeah, go on.
Oh, well, I was gonna say there's not to I think 99% of the time it's definitely better to have the pets along. But I do have a quick little story of one
Okay.
lady though who started finding out that it always involved having her Chihuahua along, and the guy that she happened to be dating at the time, every time he'd suggest something of them for them to do, it was then becoming too much though about the dog. Let's go do this with the dog, right? And let's go here. And by about the fourth date, when he came over to the apartment, she realized that he was coming over more for her dog than he was for her. Yeah. It was almost like he was testing the waters. Should I get a dog? Do I like this breed? It was always in this fun. And she ended up breaking up with him. Like I said, it didn't go too far, but breaking up with him though, because then she realized it was a bit too much about the dog. So I was just gonna say, there is sometimes a fine line of knowing that you still want to get to know the person, but having the pet along definitely helps entice conversation and laughter, and just the ease of everything.
Yeah, I think that's going down the path like complex relationships, right? The dynamic of
Yeah.
the dog. The dog adds a layer to that. It can strengthen your relationship, which I've experienced, but also then it can become like, the central piece as well. So it's about balancing it, I think.
Or if the pets don't get along
Oh
and what
yeah, yeah.
happens.
In that
Yeah,
scenario too, yeah, definitely.
right. Or if totally different breeds and it's not working out. So I think they're definitely a positive move to have when you first start a
Mm.
relationship. But then, like you said, then you just kind of hope and probably get a good trainer that all the pets do then get along. It becomes the Brady
The
Bunch,
Brady
I guess,
Bunch of yeah,
of
so I
the
was
pet
thinking.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really need to focus on that connection between the humans as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so important. Okay, so with FetchaDate, what's the best way for people to go and get involved?
We're in the App Store and
Yep.
we're on Google Play. So it doesn't matter what kind of phone you have. You can find us in either one of those. You just you sign up with your cell phone, and we did it purposely that way because uh, I feel like there's less likelihood of somebody not being real.
Mm.
Right. And we know from the days when somebody put in emails and they could be completely fake and fake pictures and this and that. So trying to make this as authentic as possible. I do think also, again, just with having pets involved, I think people just truly do want to be more honest.
Mm.
Um, and many of the pictures I've seen in there is definitely people you can tell they're like natural pictures with people and their pets. So um, and you just upload a couple of one picture of yourself, one picture of a pet. You can add more later if you like, but we start off with one, and boom, you're in. That's it. It's really fast. I mean, literally, if you know which pictures you want to put up, it could be all of 15 seconds to be signed up in there, and you're ready to start swiping right.
Swiping. Cool. And do you have like an idea on like how many people from different geographies are using the app at the moment?
It's been really exciting to see in the administration panel that people really are coming from all around the world. So that's great. The word's getting out. But I do ask people to, please have some patience with it yet.
Mm.
It is newer. We actually just launched around Valentine's Day. So please just tell your friends and it'll fill up even more quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the more people that start using it, in your area, the better it's going to be for everyone, right?
Yeah. And FetchaDate 2.0 is going to include, I also have the name Fetch a Friend. So,
Okay.
maybe you need a date right now, but, and then as it keeps filling up or so, you can stay in there and hopefully in a year we'll have Fetch a Friend offered. So if you then are content with who you're seeing, or hopefully you even get married because of somebody you meet in the app, then you can just kind of sort of slide over and then just look for friendships. Because I think we always like to connect too, right? For whether it's
Mm.
even friendships or people we might want to do business with, just those that I think it's an understood concept, or again, like that whole secret society, right? That we know, oh, they're a dog person, right?
Mm.
They got to be good.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you mentioned it because we're currently in a lockdown at the moment here in Sydney, and there's so many people that are isolated in their kind of geographical local areas
Mm-hmm.
that would, and you see everyone out walking their dog and all this kind of stuff because you're allowed to do that, right? But that would make a lot of sense just to meet someone, just to go for a walk with your dog, like just to have that human connection for a day or whatever it is. So it's not just about that relationship necessarily; it could be a friendship as well.
Yeah. Or even if it is for a date, you could meet someone on the other side of the world and
Yeah,
still have a great relationship for the first 3 months, 4 months. Make sure it's somebody you really want to get to know and do a lot of FaceTime calls and such.
that's
So
true.
there's still, yeah, we don't, what is so great now is it seems like one silver lining, I think, of this whole pandemic is that we are reaching out more to people way beyond our own neighborhoods. And we were talking about some of the other apps even a bit earlier. They're just spiking too in terms of the number of people coming to them. So, for instance, OK Cupid saw a 700% increase. Bumble 70%, and I had another one. I don't see it right offhand, but I recall it was Match was had 1 billion swipes in a day.
Wow. Yeah.
I know, just that, yeah. Couldn't even imagine that number, 1 billion swipes in a day.
Yeah.
So they're definitely it's really opened up the world in terms of people wanting to meet others and obviously going beyond even the 10-mile radius that they're in.
Well, that'll be FetchaDate for 2022.
Yeah, there we go.
You'll be one of those statistics that someone's reading out in the podcast.
I hope so. I hope all that, because I think this is really what pet people have been wanting too, right? When you know you come here, you know everyone is a pet lover. You don't have to
Yeah.
even siphon through those other billion swipes. Right? You know definitely here you're in the right place.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Cheryl, thanks so much for sharing all your tips about dating with dogs and a bit of your history, and everything you've done with FetchDate so far. Sounds really exciting, and I hope people get on board.
So thank you. I do too, and I'd love to talk with anyone too. They're welcome to email us anytime through the website.
Great, thank you.